down the hammer and pick up the pencil. You're about to listen to the Savvy Radio Show. Learn from real-life real estate investors, experience revealed with the Savvy Landlord as your host.
What's going on, party people? This is your friend Steve VanCauwenbergh, back up on it, riding that horse, hitting it hard, trying to get it done. Anyway, I'm super stoked. I just got off an interview last week, episode number 743, all on commercial real estate in Cincinnati, Ohio. Vina Jones was the host, real life real estate. You need to check it out. But anyway, this is a follow-up to that interview, which, of course, there's never enough time to cover all what you need to cover. But it was kind of cool. A lot of people reached out to me and said hi. They appreciated it. I can't believe they even listened to it. It was live. I did post it on Facebook, but there is a few folks out there that enjoyed the podcast and hit me up with a ton of questions. And I was like, okay, here we go. Let's get the fire going. Let's stoke the fire. So today I'm going to continue on that podcast on commercial real estate and kind of just some nuances and just basic stuff. I guess in my mind, maybe it could be authentic or incredible to you. Authentic wouldn't be the right word to say because this is authentic, but I mean more intellectually gratifying for you. I don't know. But the point is, the title for today is, kind of how do you meet a broker? How do you connect with a broker? All those type of situations, like how do you get the ball rolling, basically, right? You can't just go buy a commercial property. I mean, you can, but there's a process, and we talked a little bit about that on the podcast. So make sure if you got time, it's worth the listen. People called in with some random questions, and that's episode 743, the one right before this one. Anyway, so let's dive in. So first of all, it's a whole new game. I covered that earlier. It's a whole new language. It's a whole new process, and you got to keep it on the professional tip. Okay, on single family, you can slide with being ignorant. You can slide and not knowing all the nuances. You can slide and don't know what a closing disclosure is. You don't know what a HUD is. Okay, in the commercial world, that's a no-go. You've got to know what you're talking about, okay? And that takes a little education. Can you acquire that education? Absolutely. Today, we're going to kind of go over as condensed as much as possible so you can at least get the ball rolling, start connecting with people, and maybe even putting some offers in. I mean, that's the name of the game. First of all, people need to like you, okay? So if you come across with booty breath, you come across scrappity-lackety, like you got some tears in your clothes, I mean, you got to ask yourself, do you like yourself? If you can't like yourself, how is someone going to like you? And people want to do business with people they like. There has to be some sort of connection. And before all that jazz, you got to have confidence in who you are. It's okay. My broker understood that I was coming from, single family, the regular world of real estate, moving over to the commercial world. But you still have to have confidence that you're willing to do that, okay? And you're going to fumble in the beginning. That's life. That's success. You're going to fail to move forward, but you got to keep that in mind. Remember, do you like yourself? People need to like you, and they want to do business with the people they like and trust. And back to the word authentic, you got to be authentic, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but the reality is like if you don't know, you don't know. Don't try to fake it. You can fake it and make it in some other game, but in commercial real estate, we're dealing with millions of dollars, and I wouldn't necessarily fake certain things that you really don't know. And that's okay. Can you learn it? Absolutely. Can you grow? Absolutely. So the first thing you need to do is build rapport. And there's several ways that you can build rapport. Real quickly, there is local real estate clubs in commercial real estate in your market. Okay, in my market, there's the Commercial Real Estate Council, CECRC or something like that. They do it once a month, and it's more of a networking thing. They have usually one speaker, some colleague, or usually a developer. It's usually not services they're trying to sell like a regular RIA, someone like a regular single-family RIA. Someone pops up there, hey, I'm cool, buy my crap, la-da-da. No, this is like, hey, I'm working on this development, or I'm doing this, and I would like for you to help me or come on board, or they're even looking for retail stuff. I mean, there's all kinds of craziness. But anyway, just so you know, you're going to have to find it. You're going to have to do a little bit more digging, and it's well worth it. Even in my club in Oklahoma City, it's not my club. I don't produce this club. I have an advanced club that I meet with individuals, and that's called Advanced Investor Alliance, and that's a totally different scenario. But locally, it's crazy. It's like $200 a year to be a member. You meet once a month. You have a Christmas party every year. It should be double that. And then each lunch is usually at a 4-star, 5-star hotel, and it's only like $25-$35. So it's just a no-brainer. You just have to commit to it. And that's the thing. This is a mountain that you have to climb to get to the top, and you got to have to put the work in. You got to show up. Now, let's get into building rapport. You got to know the language, okay? You can't just show up, hey, I want to get into commercial real estate, and they're just not going to help you unless you already put the time and effort in. And so there's some key words that you need to know even in the beginning. Like, you just sign up tomorrow and show up. You need to know what an NOI is. And an NOI, it's an annual net operating income. So NOI is net operating income. Usually, just so you know, not usually, it is on an annual basis. That's another thing. A lot of single family people, they just operate on a month to month, or their cash flows on a month to month. In commercial real estate, it is usually a year. So when they're running numbers, it's not $600 a month cash flow. It's $8,000 a year in cash flow, or 20 or 30 or 100. Okay, so to do NOI, you have to subtract all the operating expenses incurred on a property from all revenue generated on the property, gross. The operating expenses used in the NOI matrix can be manipulated if a property owner defers or accelerates certain income or expenses items. And so that's a little bit more technical, but the NOI metric does not include capital expenditures, your repairs. It's just what the thing throws off every month. Another word. So, I mean, you just watch YouTube a few times, go through NOI, get what an NOI is. Net operating agreement. It's the real deal. What is the cash that machine is making? Not debt service. What is it making? Okay. That's why you're buying commercial real estate. That's why I love commercial real estate. You're buying a money machine, period. Okay, a cap rate. Capitalization rate. So it's called capitalization, okay? That's the term, but everyone says cap rate. A cap rate, for short of capitalization, is the rate of return for an investment after you subtract all the operating expenses from the gross. I know. We're getting a little advanced here, but it's cap rate equals net operating divided by the current property value. When it comes to calculating your cap rate, it's important to remember that NOI, net operating agreement, you just learned that, doesn't include any mortgage expenses. I already said that earlier. So you think about cap rate as the annual percentage of return on your initial investment. If you purchase a property in cash, how would that would remove any mortgage or interest from the calculation. So make sure it's all by cash. What is my return on investment? Cap rate. So if you go to a bank, what's a CD throwing off right now? They say 6%. It's usually annually. That's boo-boo return. Okay. So when you understand what a cap rate is, and it's just going to take time. Okay. When you learn what a cap rate does, then there's usually cycles in the market, just like residential, and there's different cap rates that are trading. And so, like, if you're looking for a 10 cap rate, which is extremely rare right now, but it's possible that's what it's throwing off. That's what your return is. And, what's trading right now is probably a 6 or a 5 cap rate. So another example is, let's say, a Class A brand new apartment building. Okay. That cap rate would be lower because the risk would be lower because of the return of what you put into it. Now, a derelict property, a Class D property, it's boo-boo. You're going to get a higher return. Okay, so those are the two main ones that you need to know right out the gate: is NOI and cap rate. You've got to memorize those. You got to go through them over and over, just a little bit every day. Here's some two other ones that pop up every once in a while, and I would recommend knowing these. So one would be CAM, And CAM is the maintenance on that facility. So if you have a like a 5-unit retail space or even an office space, and it's called Common Area Maintenance, CAM. And it's expenses and fees paid by the tenants to the landlords to help cover the costs associated with overhead and operating expenses. So you got a parking lot out there and you got to restripe it, though. That's called Common Area Maintenance. So when you're selling a property, leasing out a property, it's usually the lease amount, $12 a square foot, let's say, plus CAM. Interesting, because CAM could change. It's almost like a HOA. Okay, I know I'm getting confusion, but this is going to pop up a lot. CAM is going to pop up. And you, getting educated right now, need to understand how that works, because you don't want to be an uneducated investor and not charge that, and then it's just your numbers go way down. So most commercial people that want to lease understand what CAM is. So if you're, I just rented a retail location the other day for a business I have going, and it was $22 a square foot. It's a high profile location, plus $6 in CAM. And that $6 in CAM is the taxes, the insurance, and probably some light maintenance out front, because it's all concrete out front. Now, what are you talking about? Well, what that means is that could be, and it probably is, and it is on this situation, a triple net lease for the landlord. Now, that's where you want to roll. You want to be in the triple net lease world. That means basically you're just letting them use the dirt, the building, and you have no maintenance associated with that. If you have multiple tenants, that's where the CAM comes in. Okay? La-di-da. Now, again, if you want to know a little bit more deeper, message me or Google this up. Maybe I said something wrong, which is probably normal, because I don't really know. I'm not the expert here. I'm just passing on this information of life, what I have learned. But you need to understand these terminologies. You need to understand the language of love, right? If you're having a relationship with someone, and in the commercial real estate, single family, these terms, you need to learn them. And another one is TI. And so if you have a retail building, or you want to lease it out to someone, and you really want to be competitive in a way to attract a Class A tenant, a credit tenant, someone like a Dunkin' Donuts per se, you need to offer TIs. And TIs are tenant improvements. Now, most people rent your building in commercial side. They come in, they jazz it up for what they're trying to accomplish. Maybe they paint the walls, put up a new wall, put up a sign, la-da-da, and it actually improves your building, usually. Now, to be competitive, you may offer TIs, and that's called tenant improvements. And the more money that you're willing to give them usually reciprocates by a longer lease or a more higher monthly lease rate. Okay, so let's recap. NOI, cap rate, CAM, and TI. Those are the first four that you need to know. Then moving on, as you're building a relationship and having conversations, and we'll do another podcast. I don't want to overwhelm you here, but I want to do another podcast on when you finally connect with a broker, when you sit down, maybe for lunch, maybe for a meeting. How do you run that circumstance? How do you connect in that arena? I'm going to do that on another podcast. Let's just keep this ball rolling. So you need to understand the language of funding. Now, funding is typical, mortgages and cash, but in commercial world, there is a lot more opportunities. Okay, this is another reason why I recommend you getting into commercial. It's not easy. It takes a lot longer to develop relationships. It takes a lot longer to get funding, but you can easily, okay, and that's why you need to learn the language of loan. You can assume someone else's loan. That's common in commercial. It's common in commercial to borrow private money for an acquisition. It's common to have partners. It is common to raise funds in a syndication. So what is a syndication? Okay. What's a PPM? Okay. These are things that maybe we can cover on another episode if you want to learn more about those, but you need to understand the language of funding. What is prime? How does that work? What's Wall Street prime? what's the current cap rate on if you do, if you put down 200,000, again, we're running cap rate on no debt. Okay. So you got to have confidence. And then, you might have to do this more and more and connect with people more and more, or get in with another individual, another guy or girl that really wants to learn commercial. And you guys can just kind of swap back and forth and quiz each other. But it depends, your motivation is how bad do you want it, right? I mean, how bad do you want to get into that? I don't know. I mean, obviously, if you listen this far in the podcast, you really are motivated in some form or fashion. So the language of funding. Now, in that language of funding, you're going to find what banks really like commercial. There is banks out there. Not every bank is the same, and not every bank finances the same. So, for example, there's banks that are just dedicated to funding apartments. There's banks that are dedicated to funding medical buildings for medical people, okay? And they have their own world of vocabulary. You've got to connect, and now through referrals, through digging, you can look up county records and find out where their mortgage is from. You can do all these due diligences, I don't even know if that's the right word, but still, you need to understand the language of funding as well. Now, back to the whole process here. You need to be confident, but not arrogant. I think that there's a fine line there, right? You don't want to come out and throw yourself out there and say, yeah, I have 100 units and I want to be in commercial. You just say, hey, I've been in real estate for a length of time, or I have dealt with this situation before in my single family world, or you can even borrow someone else's credibility that you worked on a project with, or you rode alongside, and you can talk to that investor. Hey, can I do that? Now, when we get into the next episode of Finding a Broker, here's some homework for you now that we can get that ball rolling. And then we'll dive even deeper in the next one. But finding a broker, you got to study brokerages. Okay, there's brokerages out there that just do industrial. And again, I'm assuming that you understand that multifamily, industrial, retail, land. Okay, so those types of commercial real estate properties, and that was on the last podcast. There's brokerages that specialize in just land. I remember working with a single family guy for a long time, buying a ton of properties from him like 15 years ago. And then one day he called me. He's like, hey, man, I'm out. I'm like, what? I'm only in land, and I'm only in ranch land with hunting on it. Very specific. But he does several $1 million acquisitions, 300 acres for several million. And he only needs to do 2 or 3 of those a year, and he's living the life that he wants to live. I mean, it's fascinating. So, there's transactions, and then there's time and delay. And the commercial usually takes a lot longer. So if you wanted to be a commercial broker, and that's another thing, what's the difference between a commercial agent and a commercial broker? So here's another thing too. Commercial brokers usually tend to go to school. They do. They usually get an undergrad in something. They graduate. They find the best brokerage. They mentor under there, and then they do that. They're an agent at that time. They get their broker's license within a couple of years, because in Oklahoma and other states, you have to be working under someone as an agent, and then boom. That's typical. That is not on single family. Single family, hey, I want to be a real estate agent. I'm going to go take this test online and pass the state test, and I start paying monthly fees. And next thing you know, I'm a real estate agent. It does not usually work like that. Now, there is some people that transition from single family. They may be doing single family for 10 years. And then they realize, hey, I want to be a broker. I think in the state of Oklahoma, you got to have 2 years under someone else and then be a broker and then take a broker's test. There's a lot more education there, but I'm telling you, it's worth the effort to study this. The numbers and the returns are way better. Okay. So each brokerage is different, just like each banking is different. So you got to understand the nuances of all that jazz. And there's different levels of brokers too. Okay, so brokers, specialize in a specific area, and then they don't even know what real estate single family is. The broker that I work with on a regular basis, he doesn't even have access to the MLS. He doesn't even understand how the MLS works, but he's been a broker for 20-something years. So you've got to kind of understand and connect with them. What's their passion? And this guy that I work with right now is all about retail. And that's all he knows, development, retail. I mean, he has listings of land, but that land is intended for retail. It's fascinating. Okay, so that's different than someone that wants to get in multifamily. Now, in multifamily, I know Venus said this was very interesting. Well, how is that commercial if there's beds in it? I thought that was funny and a good perspective. But the reality is commercial, anything over 5 units or over 4 units is considered commercial, and it's usually a banking scenario. But the point is, multifamily is commercial, and there's multifamily specialized brokers in that arena too, and that's all they know. Is that they couldn't sell you land if they tried because they don't know the nuances of land. The insurance is different. There's general liability. It's different. The money you put down is different. There's also a lot more creative swapping on land. It's fast. Commercial real estate is just, I mean, I don't think you can go through this whole life understanding the whole nuance of commercial real estate. But are you willing to learn? That's the question. But when you connect with someone, eventually, maybe at this event or wherever you're going, you want to kind of search, background, do due diligence on them, see if they've been sued, see what, a lot of that, what I normally, if you listen to any of my podcasts, you know what I'm talking about. You could use, there's 2 usual forms for finding commercial deals, and that's loopnet.com or loopnet.net, and then CoStar. Those are the standard. CoStar is the MLS for commercial. 9 times out of 10, I mean, they're on CoStar. They're paying for CoStar as a service. They like CoStar. They're in CoStar. LoopNet is more of the kind of newbies, more of the general public. Anyone usually has access to LoopNet, but CoStar is ran kind of brokers for brokers. Just heads up. Now, when you're in there, you can find on LoopNet, you can see who's got the listing. So if you're really into flex space industrial, which is what I'm into, and I'm into retail, which is what I'm into, but I'm not into apartments. Would I buy an apartment? It's possible, but I don't look at them at all. And I have a friend that has 1,000 units, and that's all the guy does is apartments. And he has no land and he has no industrial. I have land. I do industrial. I do retail. That's just my little wheel space. It just, again, you'll find your niche when you get there, but you'll find the movers and shakers in those areas, and you got to really cultivate them. You got to be strategic about this. I know that blank Sally is the land person of this part of the city, or renewal, or downtown development, or historical area, just like single family. It's just in a different aspect. You can get on list. I'm on certain lists, and I'm on lists where they're looking for landlords to fulfill their clients. I'm also seeing lists that are rolling out, auctions. There's all kinds of things that you can get on, and then you can start paying attention, realizing who is the mover and shaker. Earmark that in your mind. Try to connect with that person at an event with that commercial. They do this big commercial event, Christmas party. That's when you're going to find that brokerage and that principal that owns that brokerage. And then you can connect with bankers. And so it's a process. You can also get referrals. If you called me and say, who's your broker? I'll tell you who it is. You can also see in newspapers, there's trade publications in your market. In our market, there's a publication called the Journal Record. Okay. Wall Street Journal of sorts. In that publication periodical, in the back usually is all the transactions that happen in commercial real estate, and they're broken down in 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 10 million, and you can kind of keep in mind what's going on. There's other Facebook groups and that are really just professional people are in it. So the little single family ghetto ones that talk bad about people, and that it's not at this level. You've got to really seek out where is this information, and then go spend time there and connect with her. Another thing that you need to think about too, the question that's going to come up is, what's your parameters? What are you looking for? You got to kind of have your elevator pitch written down, kind of understood what you're looking for, because they can tell a broker, if you start connecting with a broker and they're going to ask you these questions and you can't answer them, you're going to fail. And so we're going to have that next podcast on how to really be specific on what you're looking for how to interact, how to respond. Of course, always when someone asks you a question, ask them a question, right? If you're nervous, ask them a question. Repeat the question back to them, maybe in a different way. The question that I wrote down here, and when we're going to wrap this up, is like, can you close? And I mean, yes, you can. Okay, you got to have this level of confidence in your mind. You don't know how you can close a $3 million or $10 million deal. Okay, it's a process. Okay, it's like swallowing an elephant. It takes bites, but can you close? Absolutely, you can. You just don't understand or know how to close a multi-million-dollar deal, but can you do it? Yes. It doesn't matter where you came from. I'm telling you, commercial, if it's a $3 million deal, you can find 6 people at $500,000. I don't know. You can broker it out. There's a lot of ways that you can make it happen. Another thing you need to take a think about from your residential side, say you're residential and you're converting over to commercial, or you're trying to dabble over here on this side of the fence, no worries. Some of your lenders that you've already got loans through kind of know about commercial real estate, and those are great people to connect with and find out who are the mover and shakers and connect with them. And of course, really simple one as well is commercial closers. This is the cool part. Here's the deal. There's tons of closing companies, right? Title companies. That might be in your market in East Coast. It could be an attorney in Buffalo, New York. Those are people that do deals. In Oklahoma City, there is dedicated commercial closers. Those are the people that you want to build relationships. I know it's obvious, it's simple. I know I'm not teaching anything you don't know, but it's interesting because when I close a commercial deal, I usually close at this place and I usually connect with these people. And it's so funny because when I close, and I'm talking about another investor or another broker that I know that I work with, and I'm just curious to see how they're doing. Yeah, he was just in here yesterday and closed a deal. Actually, he was just in here a couple of days. And then you can find out what deals they're working on. You can actually find out that information, kind of remember that, and then when you connect and build rapport with that individual later, because you never know. Now, here's the thing. People have long memories in commercial, and you need to choose wisely who is on your team. And then also accountants and so on and so forth. Anyway, so hopefully this was informative. I did this for my homeboy that messaged me that I don't know in Ohio. I can't remember his name, but hopefully this impacted you. If it did, let your boy know. Let me know if I missed something or if I was inaccurate in any way. I definitely will correct it. My job here is to inspire you. My job is for you to buy assets so you can bless and help more people. My name's Stephen VanCauwenbergh. You tuned in to the Savvy Radio Show. Go out there and dabble in commercial and have a great day.
Thanks for listening to the Savvy Radio Show. Glide online and listen to our other motivating episodes at savvyradioshow.com. Connect on Twitter @LandlordBook and always be buying assets.